Former pro golfer shares her journey struggling with gender identity and why she left the sport. The support poured in. There. Kendall Dye, who played alongside Little on the Symetra Tour, was among those who reached out. Dye said she, Little, 30, left professional golf 4.5 years ago in large part out of the fear that being drug tested would reveal her secret. She'd seen it play out. How cruel, Dye thought. But it was around the age of 12 or 13 that a doctor first told Little that she was both a boy and a girl. After that day, those days in the doctor's office were the darkest. Their Little had to face every other day of the month. However, she tried to forget it. Convinced herself, Ace is a variation of intersex, an umbrella term used for people with a reproductive or sexual anatomy that doesn't fit the typical definitions of male or female. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services estimates that 2 to 5 per 100,000 people, like Little, have complete ACE. With a golfer since the age of 7, Little grew up in Eugene and followed in the footsteps of her father to the University of Oregon. Doug Little played Kendra Little, former Oregon coach R.I.A. Scott, now head coach at Virginia, said the nearly 6-foot-tall Little did her own thing in college, almost to the point of being mysterious. Her talent, Kendra. David Glens played golf at Oregon while Kendra's father was in school. He started teaching. Glens used to question Kendra's inner strength when it came to competitive golf. That was before Little is at peace with the fact that professional golf is now part of the past. But she sometimes, after pro golf, Little worked as an assistant coach at North Texas before moving back to Oregon when her father fell ill. He's doing better now. Last fall, after Little finally felt comfortable enough to share her story with someone close, she decided that it was time to tell her 2 older siblings. She wrote a letter left to right Carla mom, Doug dad, Kelly sister, Charlie niece, Carrie brother-in-law, Scott brother, and Kendra Little. Through a friend, Little became connected with LeBron James' digital media company, Uninterrupted, and 7 months later a video was posted that would change her life. Strangers have commented that Little looks like Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Today she takes it. Little used to think the fear of telling others about ACE stemmed from what others might say, when really it was more about how she viewed herself. She grew to see around Thanksgiving last year, Little knowingly met an intersex person for the first time. Being able to Little chose to stop taking estrogen injections several years ago in part because she didn't like the way they made her feel or look soft and lethargic. Just the idea of Little identifies as a woman, but as early as elementary school realized that she was uniquely When asked about common misconceptions she has heard, Little said most people don't even have the most basic level of understanding or awareness of ACE to get it wrong. Kendra Little and her dog, Hudson. Kendra Little, she gets it. People weren't taught. Little believes there's a way forward for someone like her to compete on the LPGA. It would be inaccurate. LPGA Chief Tour Operations Officer Heather Daly Donofrio acknowledged that gender in sports is a complex issue and something that many, if not most, sports and governing bodies are working to address. She's hopeful that that's why Little is bravely telling her story. To help stretch but now, she's ready to have the conversation.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,